Welcome to the Not Null Podcast. I'm just an AI voice, but here are your real hosts, Kevin Doyle, Paul Bratzlavsky, and Bobby Davis.
Hey, and welcome to this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast, the podcast where we discuss all things tech, AI to VR, robots to flying cars, and everything in between. This week I'm joined by Bobby Davis and Paul Bratzlavsky, and I'm Kevin Doyle. And coming up in this week's show, we have a few stories we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a tech CEO that's been charged in a $175 million fraud case. We're going to talk about what's happening at Twitter, because we have to talk about what's happening at Twitter. I have so many things to talk about what's happening at Twitter. I don't know what's going on over there. Then we'll talk about Italy banning ChatGPT. And finally, we'll talk about an FBI warning about public charging, something that maybe we've known for a while, but now it's getting some real mainstream attention because the FBI is finally talking about it. It seems like big news. Okay, so let's start out with that first topic. The tech CEO charged in a $175 million fraud case. So this is nuts. A lady called Charlie Javis had a company called Frank, or a product called Frank. And it was a way to simplify student loan application process. It's a financial product, right? She was previously on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. So she's now joined the, I don't know what you want to call this, the infamous group of Elizabeth Holmes and Sam Bankman-Fried, who have also been in this group and have been on the cover of Forbes for this. There's this list has got a bad rep. It's like it's a bad omen. It's not good to be on this list, I guess, at this point. But she's charged with fraud by she actually lied to JP Morgan, so Chase. She was accused of fabricating some data. This is an official quote: fabricating data to make it appear as though the platform had millions more users in order to sell the company for $175 million. So she said, we're doing really well. We've got a ton of users. Here's our users. She actually came up with, I think it was 4.25 million users, which she actually bought a list of 4.25 million users to pass this off as like a real scam. She actually purchased this list and passed it off and said, yeah, these are our students right here. Here's the list. So she's now, for doing this, she's now charged with conspiracy, wire fraud, bank fraud, securities fraud. Some of these sentences individually can carry 30 years in prison. Wow. So I would guess if she is ultimately convicted, she's probably going to prison for some of that time. She's getting the Elizabeth Holmes treatment, I think. She's going to serve some time, I guess, if she's convicted. But I guess she's also, just to throw this out there too, these are allegations at this point. She has not been convicted. I don't want to make sure that we're not disparaging anybody here too. Innocent until proven guilty. She's currently innocent. She has not been proven guilty and has denied the allegations. And they've denied to comment, I guess, publicly about this at this point. So what do you guys think about this?
Well, never go in business with a bank. That's what I say. So,
what was she thinking?
So I have personal experience, but I think number one, there's a couple of things that's interesting about this story. Number one is the fabrication of data. She's came out and I've read their attorney response saying that we didn't do that. We never told them there was 4.2 million data users, and they missed it in due diligence. So I think the CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, does have to answer the question. It's like, well, how did you get duped? So you're supposed to do due diligence. We're paying this lady $45 million. She's going to come and be an employee of the bank. We didn't look at it or we didn't do it. And so the other flip side that I have, the other problem is she said she didn't make up the data. So either the data is real or it's not real, and this will come out in court. And either there was 4 million records in the database or there wasn't. It'd be real easy to determine that. And then they can say those weren't. So since JP Morgan has obviously tried to use the product now and they've tried to monetize that, they realize that, hey, there's not 4 million here. There's more like 300,000. So it's kind of, I feel like, I don't think she could have not done this and going back and saying they had due diligence. Well, this is true, but then there's also things called just outright fraud, so that's the problem. But I wouldn't go in business with a big bank anyway, no matter what. So what they're saying is the bank made it up and they're trying to railroad her because the company wasn't successful.
They have very little to gain from this, don't they? That this is like minnows to them. Like really, if you think about JP Morgan Chase, they have billions in the coffers, right?
But you know how these big banks can be. They can be petty. So like I'm just interested to see how it plays out. I'm on no one's side on this thing. So, but I got a feeling that she probably did it, and the data science guy that generated this fake data is probably going to be in trouble too.
There's too many details here for it to not be true, isn't there? There's too many details around the fake data for that part to not be true.
Right. I mean, and then there was a thing where she did say this on LinkedIn. They had 5 million customers. So that's another problem. She did say it on LinkedIn. So like, I think she's in trouble, but you know, don't go in business with a bank.
Allegedly.
Because they can make stuff up and come after you. So like, you know, I don't know which way it's going to shake out for her, but like, it's like being on the cover of Madden though, you know, like, you know, if you're on the cover of Madden, you get injured in the NFL. So if you're on the Forbes under 30 list, you're going to jail. That's kind of what happens. So
it's true. What do you think about this, Paul?
I was just going to say, just the thought process that she must have went through. Like, what was she thinking? Like, oh, I could get away with it. I mean, allegedly, you know, if she's found guilty, but it's like, how do you even find that energy to even come up with a scheme like that? You know what I mean? Especially when you're like that young and you have to weigh like the worst case scenario. You know, it's.
Are you just assuming that the bank doesn't find out? Is that the end game here? Because the end game is you're going to get found out, right? I mean, is there any other way? Do you just think the bank's too big and too convoluted to be able to figure out that they've given a bunch of money to a fraudster and they just kind of move on? Is that the thought?
The crazy part I was going to say, like for me, like if a friend like borrows $10 from me and doesn't give it back, I'm like, okay, $10. If someone borrows like $100, I was like, all right, that, you know, that son of a gun, you know, someone borrows like $5,000. It's like, that's okay. That's like my Russian uncle coming to town. You know what I mean? 45 million or however much it was. It's like, what was she thinking? Like, I can't imagine like the resources that they're going to go like, even if she's right, let's say they messed up. The fact that she opened this like can of like worms, they're going to do whatever it takes with the unlimited resources that they have to prove a point and make an example. Like it's just so wild.
I agree. Chances of them losing are pretty slim, aren't they? Because we know they have very infinite lawyers and money to back this up, and she probably doesn't.
She's facing 2 charges, one in federal court, one in the on the Securities Exchange Commission. So the thing with the big banks is they're not only do they have lots of money, they're also super well connected, and like it's amazing like how connected they are. Even
they spend a lot of money on lobbying.
Yeah, and then they just spend a lot of money. Period. So like, which means they know everybody in town and those kind of things. So it's really difficult. It's easy for them to go talk to somebody and say, "Hey, look, you know, we got screwed over here." The thing about it being petty, about them not losing money. You can't underestimate that when Jamie Dimon had to go out and give that earnings call and they said this thing went south, it becomes personal at this point. It's like losing and like they don't like to lose. And so even if it is some of their fault, they're going to blame her. You know, like that's why I was saying in the beginning, don't go into business with a bank, because even if she isn't guilty, they're going to make it super expensive for the thing going under, you know, because the company didn't work. But I don't know how they could have thought there was 4 million when there was only 300,000 though, without them falsifying data. Unless they just didn't even look at it. The other thing I would say is fraudsters in general always are looking forward. They'll fix it forward. And that's how Ponzi schemes, I'm just going to steal a little bit. I'll make that up next week. Or, you know, she said, once we get to the bank, we'll eclipse all these records and everything will be fine in the wash, you know, that kind of stuff. So then, it's not that fraudsters are very smart people to begin with. Usually they're not, and they just con people.
It's just chances, isn't it? It's the getting the right person at the right time, saying the right thing.
Yeah, and they always think that we'll get it, we'll get there, we'll make it up, you know, but they haven't really put in the work yet to figure out how.
Well, I mean, ultimately, if convicted, this lady is looking at, you know, prison time, like real prison time.
I don't think it's worth it, in my opinion. I mean,
exactly. Don't become a white collar criminal.
No, it's just
don't become a criminal of any time,
you know,
any kind. But, you know. Okay, let's move on to our next story. Then let's talk about what's going on at Twitter. Because man, what a week in Twitter. So today's what is today? Today's the 12th. Just for frame of reference, this podcast won't come out until Monday of next week. So we're on Wednesday the 12th. So who knows what's going to happen between now and when this comes out. But so far this week, this week in Twitter has been the last couple of weeks. Let's take it last couple of weeks. So firstly, they changed the website logo to Doge, right? That it's a dog picture. Elon thinks it's funny. So they changed the logo on the website to the Doge logo, which is basically it's a Japanese Shiba Inu dog. And it's been a meme online forever, right? And it's just, he thinks it's funny. They changed the logo. Like, okay, just post April Fool's, by the way. So it wasn't even an April Fool's joke. Then they changed the name on the sign outside. They dropped the W off the sign outside. Originally, Elon ordered it to be covered up with a tarp. The owner of the building said, you can't cover that up with a tarp. You got to put the whole name Twitter up there. So he said, okay, we'll put the whole name Twitter up there. He painted the W the same color as the background. So basically changing the name of the sign to say Titter. So there's rumors as to why this is. Nobody really knows because he hasn't come out and said why he did it. But he thinks it's funny. That's kind of what it is. So they changed the name to Titter. Now it came out that apparently as of April 4th, they're not even called Twitter officially anymore. The company that owns Twitter is now Twitter Inc. no longer exists. It's now owned by X. That's the name of the company that now owns Twitter, and that's the name of it now. It's X. This came out not as an official announcement. It came out through a court filing in a California court because somebody's suing Twitter, and they had to somehow defend themselves, and they had to defend themselves under their correct legal name. So they had to declare that they were now called X. I don't know what this guy's doing to Twitter. I'm like lost for words.
What do you think, Paul?
I was gonna say I have no idea. It's just wild. Like the three things you just mentioned. It's like, what would a crazy person do on the corner of like New York, like in the middle of the night? It's like, what do you like? It's what's the rationality behind it? I just don't understand it, and it's like I can't make sense of what you just said. It's just
he spent $44 billion or whatever to like mess with people. And it actually came out today. Did you guys see the interview, the BBC interview that happened yesterday? He did an ad hoc kind of interview with BBC. Like they asked him and he's like, sure, not expecting to like get the interview. And he did an interview last night. And he basically did come out of his interview and say that he was forced to buy Twitter. Had he had the choice, he would not have purchased it, which I predicted for a long time.
I do believe
I said that was going to be the case. He tried to back out. He ended up buying it for way more than he should have bought it for. And he knows he got ripped off for it. So now he's just out here to like troll us. But this is a $44 billion troll.
Wow.
Yeah. The thing that I don't understand is like, if you are running Twitter and you do pay $44 billion and you're a billionaire and you've made Tesla and you've made SpaceX and you've made Boring and you've done lots of things, it just seems odd that you would risk the reputation of the brand by changing to Dogecoin. I don't care if it was a bet or not. I mean, like, you know, you lost a bar bet. So what? I mean, like, you know, sue me. We're not changing the logo on the site. But see, that one I can almost say, okay, it's funny. He likes Dogecoin. It's just going to be for a week. The one where he painted the sign is just like bizarre. Like that one's unforced. Like what are you doing? Like, where some would say it's a scene. It's definitely college humor-ish, you know, like, you know, but like, it just seems like when you're playing at that level, that's not what you do. I mean, like those are just dumb things. It doesn't strike you as, oh, Elon knows exactly what he's doing. It makes you think that he has no idea what he's doing, doesn't really care because he spent $44 billion, he still has 188 more. So like, you know, it's like, you know, what's a few billion between friends? I mean, maybe he doesn't care. Now the X filing is different. That I've read a little bit about that. So he's had the X Corp for a while.
Yep.
There's a holding company that holds a lot of his things. He transferred Twitter into X Holding or dissolved it or whatever. And the state changed. So he's changed it from Delaware to Nevada. And people think that there's a reason why he did that. Probably because of court holdings or the way he feels the judiciary is easier on him in Nevada than it is in Delaware, or he's not well liked in Delaware. Imagine that Elon offends someone, imagine that, right? You know, so I think there's a reason that he's doing that. And he also wants to make the X app and so it's going to be WeChat X app is what he's going to call it. It's going to be the app for everything. But it's weird because you don't, unless they're doing it behind the scenes, he fired all the engineers. It seems like you would have said, okay, we're going to make a payments platform. We're going to make a messaging platform. We're going to make this. Let's roll this out and let me put another $6 billion in this thing. And then let's keep the staff where it's at and then try to build out new functionality. But he didn't. He trimmed it down like any kind of corporate raider would, trying to make money. He gutted it. And then they've been just concentrating on feature releases and even those announcements are always misstep. Like, how much does Twitter Blue cost? $8 or something else. And the API is $42,000. Then it comes out, well, it's really $100 a month. So it's just weird that they make these missteps. So I don't know. He doesn't give you a lot of confidence in that he's going to make Twitter great. But if you hate him, then let him kill it, and then another Twitter clone will come along and take its place. That's what's great about capitalism. Somebody will. Now there's too much. It's too big for there not to be one. So like somebody would figure it out or something.
It makes me wonder a couple of things. Firstly, it makes me wonder about Elon, and he's not surrounding himself with the right people, in my opinion. He doesn't have a person around him that is sane, that will say, no, Elon, don't paint that W. That's stupid. He doesn't have like a straight man around him, right? I get it. Right. He's eccentric. I think every eccentric person needs somebody around that can just say, should we do that? He doesn't have that like guy on his shoulder that's telling him no. He's a billionaire, and to his mind, he can literally do whatever he likes.
Well, he can.
He can, but it's ultimately going to hurt him. He's going to lose a $44 billion company over it.
Agreed. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, maybe he does. But like, I do agree with you. It seems like he doesn't have a chief marketing officer, a chief technology officer, a CEO, or anyone out there that he kind of gets that group to report to him, and then they do what's the best for the company. It's like he doesn't trust anyone.
Yeah.
But then he does crazy things. Like, when the first day he took over Twitter, he brought a kitchen sink in, which is like, he still lives in troll land, which is weird from a billionaire. Most billionaires just walk in and you're like, okay, that's the billionaire. He doesn't need to say anything, he doesn't, and so where he comes in with the kitchen sink, literally into the first day at Twitter, which is weird. I like a weird play. I mean, you don't see this from Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or any of the other guys. I mean, yes, Bezos wore a cowboy hat when he launched his rocket in the sky. I get it. But like, that's a far cry from taking a sink in. He seems more serious. In other words, like he's more likely to, kill your dog than he is to make fun of Amazon and change the logo. So,
Yeah.
The crazy part, I'm like, does he think he's Tony Stark's? I mean, like, doesn't he realize he's like one is a movie character? And, I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, I'll be different if he has an Iron Man suit on. I'll be like, all right, okay, But until then, it's like, what are you doing? You can't be doing stuff like that. It's like, it's wild.
But he can.
I know.
I in my mind, he's like some 12-year-old kid on the internet. He just happens to be in a billionaire's body with billions of dollars.
Yeah.
He's like he's never grown up. It's like he's never had to grow up for some. It's just weird.
So I don't know. I mean, like, so does Twitter need to exist? I guess that's the question and the answer. I don't think so. I mean, like, I use it. It's useful. But if it totally went away, I've said before, like I said yesterday, Kevin, when we were talking about it, Twitter's a waste of my time. What am I doing looking at all these tweets? Like, I don't really gain any value from it. And I think that's the problem with monetizing the platform in general. Like, what do you do with it? Like, will anyone pay for it? Obviously not, man, Then he went out with the state media companies and changed their things to state funded, and it's like, okay, NPR is funded by the U.S. government, sort of. I mean, like it's like 1% of its budget,
He's trying to imply they have sway with it, isn't he? He's trying to imply that is a mouthpiece for the government, like he did with the BBC. He's trying to say that the BBC is government funded, therefore the government dictates what goes onto it, and it's just not true. That implication.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some, but like I would say I don't know. I mean, but it's like it was more trolly than it was trying to be an honest broker of information here.
No, he thinks he's trying to be honest. In that interview, he genuinely thinks he's trying to say I want to be the honest, like the arbiter of information, and I want to tell everybody like what is the actual truth here, because I don't think you guys are being truthful. I think the BBC is actually government funded, and it's like,
what it is,
but it's not. It's not.
Yeah, there's a tax that goes through, and people pay taxes.
It's not a tax technically.
Yeah,
it's not called a tax.
It's a fee.
If you own a TV, so in the UK, if you own a TV and you pick up terrestrial signal, you have to pay a fee, a license fee. It's a TV license. While it might come across as a tax, it is not. It's not the government that imposes it. It's not the same thing. It's not. They don't have a say in what happens. The government doesn't say, I want to dictate everything on the BBC. That's not how it works. It's people funded. It's funded by the people. If anything, that's what they should say.
That's true. I mean, it's tax, it's a fee funded thing. But BBC has other things than just news too. They have, I think Sherlock came through BBC, right?
Maybe.
Doctor Who comes through BBC, right?
Yeah. Good show.
Yeah. It makes me wonder about his intentions and his reasons for buying Twitter in the first place now too. I'm thinking because he wants to turn it into this American version of WeChat, X, whatever he's going to call it. Did he just buy it for the users too? And that's why maybe he doesn't really care about it. He bought a user base that he thinks he can pivot into something else.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of people buy user bases though. That's not a bad thing.
No, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just wondering.
That's why all of these social media companies, that's why Snap got funded. I mean, because it had users on it. The question is, how do you monetize them? And he's trying to figure that out. And it's like, what do you do if no one's advertising on the platform? Which we've always said this, even pre-Elon, when we ran ads on Twitter, it's like it's not really effective because of the way it just scrolls and scrolls and scrolls. It's hard to get noticed up there. So we've ran Twitter ads. It weren't very effective for us. So like. But does it work for big brands? Yeah, but then he chased a lot of them off too when he bought it. So like,
he claims they're back or coming back, by the way.
Maybe.
Part of that same BBC interview. But there's nothing to back that up because we've heard, he just says whatever.
I mean, there are ads on it. I would say there are ads on it. For sure there's ads run on it. Is it the same level? I don't know. It's privately held, so we don't know now.
Yeah.
He definitely is looking for revenue, but if you're looking for revenue, you don't change the logo to a dog and then put Titter on the side of the building. It's just like, it doesn't inspire confidence for someone to believe that you're going to make this WeChat competitor, which is a tough hill to climb to begin with.
Oh yeah. That's a lofty goal. It's
a big goal, which billionaires can aspire to those things, but like, it just doesn't seem like they have the engineering to be able to do that because they haven't been able to roll out Blue. They haven't really been able to fix the API access, those kind of things. And there's just
they haven't fixed anything, have they, at the minute? There's lots of stuff broken with the site. And then there's also, so the Twitter Blue, right? It's supposed to have, what are they saying it has these days now? Because that feature list just keeps changing. And it keeps changing and they keep dropping things off it. And they keep saying coming soon, but everything can't be coming soon. The 50% less ads thing never played out. The, what else was in there that I thought was good?
Well, according to you, it is 50% less ads. It's just not because of Blue.
Well, yeah, it's because nobody's advertising.
There's no ads on there,
But there was a whole bunch of stuff that they were supposed to roll out. They never rolled out. Oh, that you were going to get promoted more. That never happened either. That hasn't happened yet, despite the fact they're going to say they said they're doing that. So, I don't know.
Man, everything he's doing makes no sense. That I'm led to believe there's got to be some deeper conspiracy where there's like a billionaires club that he wants to be a member of, and they make him do like certain things. All right, this is what you got to do. Like, all right, if you want to be part of this club, you got to do something crazy. All right.
You know what would make sense here? What if he's an AI? We've seen this dumb stuff AI does. We've seen the dumb mistakes ChatGPT makes. What if he's dictating, like, all of his decisions have been made by an AI this whole time, and he rolls out this version of like Twitter GPT, whatever, and it's like, you never guess what I've been doing for the last year. Everything I've ever done over the last year, I was dictated to by this AI. And I'm like, well, no wonder it was so stupid.
I know this is... go ahead, Bobby.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know it's a stupid question. The last time I acted this dumb was when I was trying to impress like a new girlfriend. So I wonder, is he like, is he dating somebody right now? What's going on with that? Because it's like...
Maybe. He did split from his girlfriend wife, right? So maybe.
But it'll be funny.
He used to date Amber Heard. I think he dodged a bullet there, breaking up with her. But I don't know. Apparently billionaires can date whoever they want, apparently. So,
well, they have billions, so I get it.
I don't understand. Like it does seem to me this, and I don't want to put me in saying that I'm smarter than Elon Musk. I'm not. I mean, but like he's really smart. He's done a lot of great things. But I think maybe his skill set isn't really attuned to running a social media company. Whereas SpaceX and Tesla are more engineering focused problems. And that's where he was focused on. And then there was always someone else running Tesla as far as like how it's presented as a brand. You can tell, you know. But then, you know, like you told me how they named the car was weird. You know, their Model Y, S, and X because that spells sexy. So like,
they have an S, a 3, an X, and a Y because it spells sexy, and he thinks that's funny. So it gives me no confidence in even in
marketing's
that brand,
not a strong suit.
Exactly. Well, even things like that give me no confidence in the brand. Like, I don't know if I buy a Tesla, am I going to wake up one day and all of a sudden the doors are going to be open, it's blaring like, you know, Rick Astley or something out
exactly.
of it. Like,
you
is
get
that going to be
Rickrolled every day?
Exactly. Exactly. Is that going to be a thing?
Every car in America.
I wouldn't be surprised if one day he just turns that button on and all of a sudden every Tesla stops and starts Rickrolling everybody.
Right.
Like, it gives me no confidence in anything that he's involved in. That's the problem.
But then sometimes you hear him speak on these interviews and you're like, okay, he does sound intelligent. He sounds really, really smart. I just think that sometimes you can get so much tunnel vision in a certain area where you can't understand like how marketing a brand, which is all Twitter is a brand. It does have functionality, but it's more brand than functionality, that it may just not be in a skill set. He should hire someone at this point to run Twitter, I think. Yep. And then just focus on the stuff you want to focus on, which is like making sure it does stuff, you know? Did he buy Twitter just so all of his tweets would be famous? That's what everyone says. I'm like, I don't believe that, but like, crazy. I don't know. I mean, like,
it's probably one of the reasons. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, that's a big, expensive buy. You know, if you want to be more popular than anyone else on Twitter, I mean, that's just kind of crazy, but you know, whatever. But it doesn't inspire confidence that he can deliver Twitter. And if he's looking to raise money for XApp, it's got to be difficult to go, I don't know, man. Or, you know, are you going to put 2 X's beside the name and it's going to be triple X next week? Is that what you're going to do? I mean, because we don't know what you're going to do. I mean, like, you have no idea.
Yeah, that would be funny to him.
Yeah. Maybe it would be. I don't know. So,
okay, let's move on to our next topic here then. Let's talk about Italy banning ChatGPT. We've talked about this coming for a minute, and it's finally here. There is a country that has now banned ChatGPT. I've said for the longest time that regulation will be an issue for AI rollout, and in particular these large language model AIs in ChatGPT, for instance. So the Italian Data Protection Authority issued basically an immediate order for OpenAI to stop data processing, and they banned it due to mounting concerns that the GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation Act in Europe, because of the way that it handles data and the lack of controls in place for minors. So basically, they're saying that it's a data regulation issue in the way that it handles the data and doesn't handle it per GDPR rules. Because what it's doing is because of the way that it learns, the way that it gathers information, that it relies on a massive amount of information, which likely includes personal information at some point. Well, we know it does. We just know it sucks up everything. So it's definitely gathering that stuff, which means that not just ChatGPT is an issue, but any model trained like this is going to be an issue in Europe. It's going to fail GDPR. It's going to be an issue with that. What do you guys think about this?
Man, to me, like, I don't know if it's a bit harsh, because if you trust, okay, it's trained on public data and stuff like that, if everything is publicly available, like, I don't see what the big deal is. And I'm not too familiar with like how strict the laws are in like Europe and stuff like that. But I also it seems that way apparently. But at the same time, like, I wonder, like, did the people vote, to have them make that decision, or the government just decided? Because if that's the case, I'm like, well, if they come up with some sort of monetary agreement with the company where they're getting something back, and they're going to flip-flop their decision and be like, hey, now that you're paying us money now, we're perfectly fine. And so to me, like, regardless of what the thing is, it's like, there was not a democratic decision made by the people to decide to ban a service that maybe some people already got used to using. I mean, similar here if they ban TikTok, I guess, people that are accustomed to use it. So I totally get it. But from both sides, it's like if the companies come up with some sort of financial incentive to change your mind, it's like, are people going to be like, no, what you're doing is wrong, or are they going to take the money? And I would go for the fact that people would, at the end of the day, take the money if they can.
Well, it's always about the money. They got 20 days to comply to all these things, or they fine it for $21 million or 4% of their revenue. So like they can't fix this in 20 days, whatever they're doing.
Not happening. Agree.
So they're going to get fined, and it's also backed by Microsoft, which we all know that the EU has been like always going after Microsoft that's how they get, when they need money, they just find something Microsoft's doing and fine them for something, So they're always looking to find Microsoft something. But yeah, it's about the money. I think it's about raising taxes in the EU. But one of the things they brought up I find interesting is like if you you open AI or ChatGPT a name, it can bring back false information about the person. When you did your bio, Kevin.
Yeah.
It just made up things. We did my bio and like it just said things.
Wrong. It was as wrong as mine was.
Just as wrong. So they're worried about it being just wrong on things. And the problem with it is it will always be wrong because it just puts words together. So it's not like a search engine for people. It's just writing an article, a bio that looks like a real bio, and then it conflates facts, some right, some wrong. I don't know where it's getting its wrong facts from, because some of the facts about me were in the same area. Yeah. But I went to a different school, and then I had awards that I didn't have.
Just claim the awards.
I was African American and not white. I mean, like there was a lot of things that just got totally wrong about me. So it was weird that
at least it knew who you are.
I don't think it
has no idea who I was. It'll be like,
I couldn't even write a bio for you.
You're not important at all. I don't have time for you. So like, listen to you two complaining about you're famous on ChatGPT. You're always going to have falsified information made about you via ChatGPT. Like for me, I don't even get it can't even say one thing about me. It's like,
wow.
Just if you're so good at making stuff up, why don't you make something up? I want to hear like something. It's like
something good about you, right?
I think it's because of training data, right? It's the same with like the models for like images too. It's all to do with the training data. If it has a limited set of training data, it doesn't quite know what to do with it. It doesn't know how to put that together because it only knows a little bit about it. And I'm guessing your name is so unique that it does have a limited set of data. Therefore, it doesn't know how to use its model to put that together. Whereas the names Bobby Davis and the names Kevin Doyle are way more common. So it has a way bigger data set to pull from. And the problem is it doesn't pinpoint either one of us. It pinpoints all of us. But then it also just plain makes stuff up too, because like I said before, it said there was a book that was written by me. And not only did I not write it, but no Kevin Doyle wrote it because the book didn't even exist. The title of the book is just fictitious. It's not even a book.
Yeah,
which I don't know how it came up with that.
I won several NASCAR races according to ChatGPT.
I would totally make a dating profile based on all the information at ChatGPT. I'll be like way cooler than I am now.
That's the thing. You should just tell people to look you up on ChatGPT. It's no longer looking you up on the dating profile. Just look me up on ChatGPT, man. It'll give you great stuff about me.
It's funny because I created this little AI tool which takes YouTube shorts, which have really limited amount of information because it's literally 30 seconds, 1 minute. And I created AI general application, which will basically generate full featured like blog post of like a simple short. And the way I prompted saying like, if there's missing information or like whatever, just make more stuff up. Just to get it. And so if it understands like the context of a video, it will make something that video specific. But if it's something like there was a funny TikTok video or like a YouTube video, very bad, very inappropriate racist video where this girl sings a song on how to be a ninja, which sounds very derogatory to like, Asian Americans or Asians like in general. And when I put that to ChatGPT, obviously it wasn't going to say those racial things. So it literally wrote a whole blog post that had nothing to do about what the song was about, but it literally was a tutorial on how to become a ninja. And I was like, it's just like,
oh, wow.
It's like, it's producing family-friendly content. I really appreciated that. It took a racist video and made it very wholesome. So I have a tutorial on my website, How to Be a Ninja, if people are wondering.
I like that. That's a good use. I like that.
Interesting thing about that, like, because I made it like as a play like tool for fun, but I'm able to take any one of your shorts, and when I put it into my Chrome extension, it automatically publishes a full blog post on my website. And I wonder like how many scammers, how many like people like bots out there who are like doing similar things like this to game like SEO or to provide misinformation. And the fact that I was able to so easily do that, anybody with any more or additional like know-how and the resources, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So I do want to see some smart legislation around AI to kind of prevent people abusing the tech, you know.
I wonder if we're going to see like a statistic at some point here. We're going to notice that these Times post ChatGPT and post these large language model AIs, whether we see this sudden increase in published content to the internet. I'm guessing we will overall, because obviously all this new content's coming on. And then in the future, how do we distinguish between what was written by somebody and what was written by an AI? Where we look, even if we do get legislation, where we look back on this time and just like all of a sudden the internet's like 50% bigger because it's now 50% more junk.
Yeah. So I just ChatGPT Paul Balaski's bio. I just told it to write me one. Paul, listen to this. It knows who you are now.
Oh, thank
You're
God.
an accomplished software engineer and entrepreneur. You've worked for such technology giants as Google and Facebook. Currently, since 2014, you've been working at Uber. And you're the senior manager of data science. Okay. You're also the co-founder and CEO of Composable, a startup that offers a platform for building and deploying scalable data analytics and machine learning workflows.
All right, copy and paste that email to me. That's going straight into my dating profile. Because
where does it pull this from?
What kind of prompt did you give? Because I just
it says write a bio for Paul Babaski, the simplest prompt ever.
I must be terrible at this. Mine says, I'm sorry, but I don't have any information on the person named Paul Braslavsky.
It says, outside of work, Paul's an avid traveler and enjoys exploring new cultures and cuisines.
100% all these things I do. It's absolutely straight on point. Anybody's looking, see, I'm a cool person. Just, my number, does it have my phone number in there? Just put it in there. Put it in my
you also work for Code for America and the Stanford Technology Ventures Program.
all 100% true. Look, I like it. Look at that. Perfect.
So the only thing it didn't do is put you on the 30 under 30. So
man, that's like that's wrong. I'm definitely not 40 or 30. It's like
so with Italy now banning this, if this goes through, they start doing this thing, and Italy's like no longer using this, or you're in Italy and the majority of people don't get access to it, because somebody who's still a techie can still run a VPN. You're still going to be able to run this thing. It's not going to be like, it's not going to be difficult to get ChatGPT to run in Italy. It's not going to be like, it's not rocket science. But does this mean as a whole, like, does this put Italy behind the rest of the world?
100%.
Things are still going to get built. It's not like
but Italy won't be able to use them.
So I don't know. We'll see though. So the thing you mentioned about VPNs is interesting. I just want to take a little bit of a tangent because I read the thing about banning TikTok. And so banning TikTok was going to be enforced in the current law that was being through the US government, was that the person who uses a VPN to download TikTok could go to jail for 30 years.
Wow.
And they weren't putting it to TikTok. And so this is why I don't like regulations, because it always goes against the people in some way and not against here. So I do like the fact they're just going to fine OpenAI, but I don't think they should outright just ban people from using it. I think they should just fine them until they fix their problems. But I don't think they can effectively.
They can't fix it. They're asking them to change the way that it fundamentally works.
Yeah, they don't understand how it works.
They basically want to get paid. Guaranteed.
They just pay me. We know you can't fix this.
Actually, interesting thing. I don't use VPN, and based on your statement, I don't even know if they work anymore, since you could use VPN to download TikTok and still get arrested somehow. So, I knew somebody that uses VPN for work, and they said they couldn't log into ChatGPT. It says some error. So at
the firewall level, Yeah, when you log into a corporate corporate VPN, it's blocked at the firewall, and then at the firewall level, you can say what sites can you get to. That's how they block, obscene sites and all that kind of stuff, gambling and whatever else. Since I guess ChatGPT is on that list, because it's super dangerous if that bio is wrong.
Well, here's an interesting thing I heard. I didn't try it yet. I'm curious, but ChatGPT, it's like a policed in a way. Like it's way better now from telling you to do crazy things. But somebody released a ChatGPT-like model which doesn't have those rails, and so you can ask
chaos.
It pretty much.
Yeah, the ChatGPT chaos. Chaos. Chaos.
Anything
GPT.
You want. Yeah, and so I'm like, people always going to find a way. So I think like trying to stop it at this point, it's just it's out of the bag. You can't.
I agree.
It's just going to happen.
It's out of the bag, and the way that this is going is at this point, nobody's asking permission at this point. We're just full ahead. What's going to happen is we're not asking for permission. We're just asking for forgiveness at this point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Companies are just going to roll ahead with this thing. You're right. It's out of the bag, and it's just going to keep steamrolling.
What I think though, if you're a US based, I don't think you should invest in the Chinese startups to do this. I think you should only be able to invest in US or European companies to build this out.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't like to see investment dollars flow out of here to go into a Chinese version of it. But I could be waving my flag again and bleeding red and blue. But, I do think that there is a competitive advantage that we have right now with OpenAI, and hopefully we can keep that. But I do think that usually when the GDPR comes hunting for that, it usually works its way over here to the US eventually.
Yeah, it does. It's an early indicator for what we're going to see next.
That's why we have accept all cookies on every website. It's like, dude, like this is the dumbest thing ever, but you have to put it on there because of that.
Yep.
And that's one of those privacy things they had. You can't download Google Fonts from a CDN because you have to give the IP address out in order to download the font anyway, which is,
Yeah.
So you have to go and install it locally because of GPDR. It's awesome.
A quick note about VPNs before we move on. VPNs definitely work. I use a VPN. Let's say that I wanted to watch, I don't know, BBC TV, but I'm not in the UK. Like, I could use a VPN to spoof my UK IP address to just pick up BBC TV, for instance. Of course, if I was going to do that, I would pay a TV license. That that would be a problem because they do make you say that apparently if you do that. So that would work as a case, and I would say that ChatGPT will work through a VPN too. I can spoof into another country and it will function. What'll happen is certain IP addresses products will often ban, so they'll start recognizing that a VPN uses this IP address and they'll just block it. So they'll block a range or something. But the VPN providers just keep putting up new IPs all the time, so they're just ahead of the game. So you just pull another random IP and it works. It's not an issue.
So you use the VPN to stay up on the British baking show, The Great Bake Off?
I could, yeah.
I was gonna ask, are there any good sitcoms or?
Oh, there's lots of good sitcoms.
There's
British, because I really like. I don't know. The humor is different, and I like it. So I gotta find some new shows to watch.
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff on iPlayer, and there's ITV has one too. You can,
I mean, they basically invented The Office, and then we came and Americanized it.
But if you like American Office, you're not watching the British Office. Like,
it's
that,
different,
100%.
But it was copied from it. So.
It was remade for American audience because like the jokes like on the British is like more dry and like you kind of have to like pay attention a little bit more.
Right.
But they're like more like I don't want to say you got to like be more intellectual, but there's just like they're subtle and it's like where US Office is like right out. It's like bluntly like there's nothing subtle about the humor. It's like So
I like both.
I like both
with exception of the first season of the US one. I don't like it because they took the script from the UK one and basically just redid it, and it didn't work. But by the time Michael Scott became Michael Scott, he was a way better character, and they built it out as its own character. They didn't build it out the same way they built out the Ricky Gervais UK one. So I like both. I've watched the UK one, I don't know how many times.
They're both good shows, but I've never met an American that liked both. Like weirdly, like they all like I either like one or the other. But
interesting.
It's funny, but
interesting.
So we have a disagreement about UK shows. What's the car show that I like in the US? Top Gear.
Oh, Top Gear. Yeah.
Top Gear US. So I thought was better than the original, but
No.
Then I started watching the original, and I'm like, I've come around since, Kevin.
Original
But,
is the best. Like the banter that they have with each other, like that's why you watch it. You know, I don't even care about cars, but like the banter that
nothing
they have,
to do with cars.
Yeah, it's so good, so good. And they roast each other pretty hard sometimes, which is like, oh my gosh.
I think it's because I saw Top Gear US before the original and didn't know it was the original. Just watched the USO show, and I liked it. And then I've since caught some of the UK shows. It's kind of funny. It's been around forever. So.
It has. It's good. Okay, let's move on to our last topic then. Let's talk about the FBI and warnings about charging devices. So anybody that's been like in any way remotely like interested in consumer tech has known this for a while, right? This has been a thing for a minute, right? That connecting to public Wi-Fi is kind of an issue, and plugging into just open USB ports. So when you go to airports and hotels and places like this, right, you can take a USB cable and you can plug it into the port and you can charge from that, right? You get a charge from that. But what a lot of people don't realize is you can also transfer data over that cable. So a lot of those ports, or some of those ports, have been hacked. They contain a little piece of hardware in them, and they transfer data. They can put stuff onto your phone, take stuff off your phone. You don't really need to know more than that from a technical perspective. Just know that if you're plugging into one of those, there's a potential for you to be hacked. This has been around for a long time. This technology's been here for a minute. It's been the better part, at least 5 years, if not longer, maybe a decade even. This has been an issue. So the reason we're talking about this, though, is because now there's an official, like the FBI came out and made a warning about this, which means they must have seen a massive uptick in this, I'm guessing. There must have been a big spike in this somewhere for them to come out and say this, say, hey, you shouldn't be plugging those phones, tablets, computers, whatever it is, into these ports, because they're obviously seeing something that's making them say this. This has not been a new thing, but it's new to a lot of people, I should say.
Right. That means someone in Congress got hacked.
Probably. Yeah. Now they're
we did just have a Pentagon leak, that went out to Facebook last week. So, maybe that's how it happened. The Joint Chiefs was in the airport and got hacked.
I have a suspicion it is something like that. That it is somebody high up that got 100%. Hacked.
Yeah. So, and you should know better, but we don't. I mean, so in general, there's like 4 pins in a USB thing, and so you need to, if it's pinned correctly, it can transfer data. And what they're doing is an old hack. And I've done this from my credit card processing days, like where people would put skimmer devices on gas stations or in convenience stores. And when it would swipe the card, it would just rip the card off. This is the same thing. So you can imagine if you're in a hotel room and you're like a motivated hacker, you have all night in that hotel room, you can unplug the lamp, pull the piece out, put a piece of electronics in, and push it in. And what happens is it downloads this malware device, and as soon as it does, it calls home, which home is at the hacker's house, and like, oh, we just got another one. And if you don't think this is possible, I was a certified hacker at one time. I don't do it anymore. White hacker, obviously. I went to a class and everything, got my certificate. But we were in a Hilton, and we were watching the guy. He was showing us how to do this in a Hilton. And he said, if you log on to Wi-Fi in the Hilton, he says, you're just asking to be hacked. And in 30 seconds, he identified like over 200 computers just right there in the class. And he was on like a bunch of them just because he could do it. And so, in fact, the demo was I logged onto the Wi-Fi on the computer workstation I had there. And within 8 seconds, he opened the tray on my computer. It's like popped out the CD at the time. This is a long time ago, dating it, but like, nice. That just tells you that, you should never get on public Wi-Fi ever. Even if you're in a Starbucks, I don't care. And then you should never pick up a charging cable you don't know where it's at. And you should never, I think you even have to be suspect of charging cables because now they're putting them in the cable.
Yes. Yeah, nice. The technology is so small now. Yeah. This is even if you're looking for it, you're not going to see a physical device like a skimmer anymore. It's so small. There is literally a cable called the OMG cable that you can buy. This cable's really expensive, though, by the way. It's like $200 for a cable. So they're not cheap, but the technology is in the cable. If you found this cable lying around and you plug it into anywhere, you plug one end into your phone, the other end into anything.
It's a download.
It downloads something onto your phone.
And so what these guys do, they take the cable and it looks like any other cable, and then they leave it somewhere, and someone hacks it and plugs it in immediately.
My favorite thing is when people find like random USB drives outside, and then they have the need to plug it into their home computer. Like they just need to see what's there. And I'm like, why are you doing? What are you doing?
Well, this has been a directive at like big institutions for a long time. They disable the ports on a lot of like banking machines. You can't even plug anything into it.
Right. And there's been hacks about the USB things that you're at a conference or trade show and they give you a USB stick or whatever. And I read a report about where they gave out like, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 of these things. They had malware on it, but it wasn't from the company. It was from the manufacturer of the USB stick. And so they just had their logo put on it, but it had malware when they got it. And then they infected 4,000 people, and it was, so you can't stick in a USB stick in there, or any drive. Someone hands you a drive. You're like, dude, just email me a file, I guess, like, I don't know where that's from.
I have a friend. I was going to say I have a friend. He goes to the DEF CON. It's like a security conference, and there's one coming up in Las Vegas in August. And I'm going to go meet up with him there. But he's like, every time I go, I always bring a burner phone, none of my real stuff. And I'm like, because
that's the thing. If you're going to that,
that's what they're trying to do. And a lot of times you'll be part of the talk. It's like, hey, here's the hacked.
You get trolled in front of 100,000 people.
Exactly. So, but
definitely. So there is some like things you can do. Obviously, some safety things you can do around this, right? Like you said, never connect to public Wi-Fi. Definitely don't connect and do your banking on it. That's the worst thing you can ever do. Don't transmit anything across it that you would want anybody else to read. If you have to connect, but you shouldn't anyway. Just use your cell phone plan. The other thing to do is if you're charging, often by these charge ports, there's an actual plug. If you bring your own plug, where you plug the USB into and then you plug it into the wall. You have a way less risk of getting hacked. There's no way currently to do that unless your cable is corrupt or your plug is corrupt. But if you're buying those from reputable places, like if you're going to Apple and you're buying the Apple cable, you're going to be good. At this point, I would be wary of buying one on Amazon.
Yes.
100%.
Amazon's a free-for-all for crazy stuff. If you're buying a cheap cable on Amazon, there's a reason that cable might be $2 because maybe it contains malware.
Yeah, don't get me started about USB-C cables that aren't the 3.1 spec and they're really USB-A cables. So like, you have to really read closely to a lot of these things. And I would say if you run an Apple device, I know it sounds crazy, but I'd buy the $34 cable at this point. The other thing I would do is only use a charging brick and put it in your backpack if you care about your stuff.
100%. Yeah. The other thing you can do is there's little dongles you can buy, little data, what are they called them? Data, like data protection, data blocker jacks.
Yeah.
So it's basically a pass through. So what it does is it allows only power to pass through that little dongle.
Right.
So you plug that in first, then you plug your cable in. Only power can pass through now. It basically blocks off the pin for data, so no data can pass through it. So you can buy
just bring your own charging brick, and charge it into the power. Then make sure it's your cable. And those kind of things, especially if you're going for work and there's anything on your machine that's remotely valuable, you should think about this stuff. You don't want to be the one responsible for losing that data, do you? That's exactly. You don't want to be the Joint Chiefs that leaked all the Pentagon files accidentally, and then the FBI trolls you on public in front of everyone in the country. So like saying, hey, you know what you ought to think about? Charging cables. Because I think someone got hacked and they should have known better. And that's why they made a release about it. Apparently no one knows about this.
Literally played out like the guy went to Starbucks and he was like, he's like, what did I do with my charging cable? And some nefarious person was like, hey, I got an extra cable. Here you go. Take it. And it's like, oh, wow, what a nice person. And they're probably in the office like telling the stories like, oh, I was at Starbucks, had to do something important and I couldn't find my charging cable. There's a nice person. They gave you their cable. And all of a sudden people in the room like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, get the FBI, get everybody,
Exactly. Next thing you know, all this data's on a Discord server somewhere and people are downloading it being like, this looks legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
yes, it is.
The other stories I've heard from my hacker friend, he told me that he runs a security company. So he does legit penetration tests. The company hires him for it. And he's working for a large company that manufactures cameras. That's how he tells the story. So you can do the math of what this company was. And he was hired to see if they could penetrate the network. So he walks in the door and he gets the guy to sign the contract. And the guy signs the contract. He says, all right, go ahead and try. And he goes, we're already in. And what had happened was the chief technology officer went across the street to Starbucks. They were logging onto the public Wi-Fi in Starbucks to do their work. He basically did an ARP spoof at the time, which means that all the traffic went from the Starbucks router to his computer, and then it was routed over. Did a man-in-the-middle injection hack and was into the company in 30 seconds.
Wow.
And then he owned that guy's computer who had admin rights to everything because he was the chief technology officer. And then he was on the servers just like that. Got paid.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did.
But that just tell you, don't log into public Wi-Fi ever. I mean, like, I know it seems like you want to save that on that data plan, but if you're going to go to I have to tell the people around me, my wife and kids, don't do that. We'll pay the data.
Exactly. There's another, it just reminds me, there's a really good podcast called Dark Side Diaries with Jack Resider, which talks about a bunch of this stuff. He interviews a bunch of pen testers, a bunch of people who do physical security stuff. It's a really, really good podcast.
Good show.
But so hopefully we can help some people out today. And then maybe in the show notes, we can push that plug out there for Amazon they should buy.
We should have our own plug that we sell as a sponsor.
Yeah, with our logo on it. Yeah, the not Null plug.
Yeah,
maybe we should. See, I'm wary about pushing somebody to something on Amazon, even for one of these I
know, because you don't know if it's real. You have no idea.
You don't know if it's real, if it works. Plus, secondary, you don't know if it actually contains malware.
Exactly.
It's like, you know what I mean? It would be a great little thing, wouldn't it? Like, yeah, I'm selling this thing. It's for data security. Like, trust me, plug this thing in here. And you actually your cable and everything was fine. You're just adding it now, and you actually, you're adding malware to your device.
But it's called, if people are out there are listening and they want to know the terms to look for, it's called data blocking or juice jacking. Is the keyword you're looking for. And if you're looking at a cable or a plug-in, I would find it reviewed somewhere by a reputable person on YouTube or whatever and see the brand and things they're recommending.
Yeah,
someone that has some credibility in the space. There's a lot of people on YouTube that says, hey, get this device. And I think that way you can know. But that's what you need to do. But you can also avoid all this by use the Samsung cable, use the Apple cable, use your own brick, use your own battery backs. Don't plug into anything anywhere. You can't trust it.
Got to bring back the phones that we used to have that just do nothing but call. The flip phones. Like that's all it does.
Phone.
Yeah, flip phone. That's all it does.
I mean, even today when my scam days running the fraud company, I still today, when I do a swipe card at the gas station, I still pick it and see if I can pull the face off of it. Yep. Today, I still do that because we watched cameras from different banks, and the bank got hacked, and then they found it from a convenience store, and they put a plate over a card reader in like 8 seconds. Wow. And so it would be two people. One guy would walk in and say, hey, can you get the smokes in the back? And the person turns around and they put it right on top of it, and it skimmed every card for the day. Then they come back and pull that thing off and walk out with all the numbers. So
it had happened to me once. I was a victim once.
Yeah.
I went into I think it was a Target? It was a Target in the Columbus area. And it happened really, really fast. And I know it was there. I'd used it. And they had basically skimmed my information. They had loaded my information onto a new card and were buying stuff at the Walmart just down the road.
Yes.
Like within 15 minutes of me being in there, they were already using the card down the road. And I knew it was at that Target because I knew it's the only place I'd use my card. And it happened so fast afterwards. And I still had my card with me. So I knew they hadn't stolen the physical card. So I knew they skimmed it. And I went back to Target. They found the skimmer. They found the video of the people. They turned it all over to the police. I just, I reported. It was a credit card, so it was fine. I was protected, so it wasn't an issue.
But still, it's a pain in the rear sometimes.
It was a pain. I had to cancel it, get a new one. It was a total pain. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, that's it for this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast. As always, I can ask you to do two things. If you made it this far, please leave us a review somewhere on your favorite podcast player of choice, wherever you're listening to this. If you can, that would be great. And also share this podcast with somebody you think might be interested. We're continually looking to grow, so we want to get more and more and more people listening, and maybe we'll get some cool sponsors and some cool deals at some point. We're trying to work on a couple right now, so
maybe
some cool stuff.
Can I give a shameless plug? If you follow us on YouTube, tomorrow I'm going to code a website using AI tools only on the East Coast, and we're on the East Coast at noon tomorrow. We'll see how well I do. So
It's going to be fun. Actually, by the time people hear
Coder-founded
this,
YouTube, if you want to check it
by
out.
the time people hear this, we'll already have done it.
Right. So you can go see
So
how I did.
this is going to come out on
If you're in the
Monday. So
future
yeah, so
right
go
now.
exactly. We're in the future. You're listening to this in the future, so it's already happened. So we don't know what happens, but it's like it will have happened tomorrow. Yeah, we're going to try and make a website using only AI tools. We're going to use ChatGPT, and then we're going to make some images too using Midjourney and probably Adobe Firefly
Right.
too. To make some
And Paul, if you
branding
want to
for it.
stop by and make some
What's
soundtrack for it, you can. So,
Yeah, what time?
soundtrack. Noon Eastern.
I'm sure it's
You're
like
in Texas, so 11 a.m. your time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, we're doing
like-
that tomorrow. So yeah, go look on YouTube. It'll be there by now.
yeah, it's there right now. You know.
Go watch it. That'd be great.
I was going to say, be ready to be disappointed. That's what I was going to say.
Hey, we don't know what's going to happen. What
We
do you
don't know
mean?
what's going to happen.
Surprise.
Maybe it makes
Very
the world's best
disappointing.
website. I don't know.
Like
We'll
certain
see.
things,
We'll see
certain
tomorrow.
things is good at, and certain things like I was like, oh, what are you doing?
I think we're going to have a "oh no, what are you doing" moment. I just have a feeling.
I might yell at ChatGPT tomorrow at noon. Like, what are you doing,
It's like, what are you
ChatGPT?
doing?
Give it a name. I have to give it a name so I can yell at it better.
Okay, so we'll catch you guys next week.
All
Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. We'll see you later.
Later.
Bye, everyone.